still rising on a worn-out town. Paint peeling off them old brick signs. Folks work hard, keep their heads down, trying to hold on to better times. Used to leave your door unlocked at night. Now everybody's got a camera on. Still got faith if we get it right, we can fix what's gone wrong. Ain't about talk, ain't about show. It's about the way we live, the way we know. Let's get back to dirt roads, back to porch lights. Neighbors standing up when it ain't polite. Cold beer, hard true stars up above. A little less noise and a whole lot of love. Red, white, blue ain't a trend we chase. It's sweat on your shirt and calloused hands grace. If we're gonna stand, we don't stand apart. We gotta get back to heart. By the water line, kids still laughing like nothing's changed. But there's a whole lot of talk on the screen these days, and not enough folks saying it face to face. We ain't perfect, never claimed to be, but we know what matters when the dust all clears. It's family, friends, and a little dignity, and standing strong through the years. Ain't about left, ain't about right. It's about showing up when it's time to fight. Let's get back to dirt roads, back to porch lights. Neighbors standing up when it ain't polite. Cold beer, heart true stars up above. A little less noise and a whole lot of love. Red, white, blue ain't a trend we chase. Sweat on your shirt and calloused hands grace. If we're gonna stand, we don't stand apart. We gotta get back to heart. Filter, ain't no spin. Just who we are and where we've been. If you fall down, we pull you up. That's the kind of country built on us. Let's get back to dirt roads, back porch lights. Neighbors standing up, yeah, ready to fight. Cold beer, heart true stars up above. A little less talk and a whole lot of love. Red, white, blue ain't a flag you fold. It's a way of life and a code we hold. If we're gonna stand, we don't stand apart. We gotta get back.
Good evening and welcome to Apex News Above the Noise. I am Kyle Thompson.
And I'm sorry, I'm Craig Blanton. I was reading something.
Craig's reading stuff. Thanks for joining us tonight. We are here for the Friday weekly wrap-up here. We've got major updates, some headlines that we have, including Kentucky politics and obviously Kentucky basketball. But first, we are joined by a special guest who's stepping into the local political arena for the first time here in Franklin County. Russ Greenwell, Republican candidate for the 3rd District Magistrate position, is with us tonight to talk about his campaign priorities and what he believes needs to change at our local level. Russ, welcome to Apex News Above the Noise. Let's start right here. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself and why you have decided to enter into the political arena at this point in your life.
All right. Thank you all for having me on here. And, I think this is a good that we get a chance to, do stuff like this. Myself, I worked for the city of Frankfort for 20 years as a firefighter paramedic. I've born and raised here in Frankfort. When I retired from the fire department, I worked around in the city of Frankfort, different areas, swimming pool, things like that, just to stay, busy. And then COVID shut all that down. Then I got my real estate license. And then I've been doing real estate ever since 2022. It's right around 5 years I've been in the real estate business. And so what made me decide is, sometimes I feel like, people in certain areas don't have a voice sometimes, or the transparency you don't see. And so just to make sure that, people are informed and things like that, I think is, very important. And, that the decisions that are made that affect, me and anybody else, is to make sure that the choices are being made to the best of, what is good for us.
Well, I can't thank you enough for being here, and obviously as someone who's been in the local politics before, I understand the sacrifice it takes. So just putting your name on the ballot, we appreciate you doing that. It makes the process work. It, what is it that really got you though? Like, what was there one incident or one policy or one issue that kind of drove you to the idea of, hey, maybe I'll run for a local office?
You know, not one thing, but over my years in the fire service, watching commission meetings and watching physical court meetings and how decisions had been made and things that were this, the way everything has gone on kind of over time. And we just, there's not a lot of growth in Franklin County, and I think just watching that and trying, to find out what's, my kids when they get older, how it's going to affect them. And I think that kind of made me make the decision to get in and try to, use my voice and my background.
Russ, you and I have talked on the phone a few times. We talked downtown when we were down there outside for, about an hour, a little bit longer. I learned a lot about politics with Governor Carroll when he was Senator Carroll. And one thing I talked to him about, and he expressed to me that in politics, I think a lot of politicians don't do, is something as simple as returning phone calls and answering emails and texts. What he did, he had a staffer, because at the Senate you got extra help, but you won't have that kind of thing. But at 9:00, he would sit down every night and he would respond to the emails that his staff told him were important, that his constituents need to hear from him. Will you have time to reach out to the people that ask you questions?
Yes, with my real estate, you got to return phone calls. You have to answer emails. That's the business that the real estate is you always got to make sure that you're, easily accessible and able to communicate, on a very easy, the way technology is today. There's email, there's text messages, there's all kinds of way to get that done. And that's what I do, now. And it's very important, because if you're not, easily accessible or at least able to answer a email to the fact that, hey, I know you have a concern, I'm working on getting you an answer, at least, something to show that, you have received and you are trying to, meet those needs of the people in your district or anybody that, has a question.
Okay. Another thing that I've noticed over the years with the campaigns I've helped out on is most candidates running for office don't attend the city commission meetings or the fiscal court meetings, but we got new technology where you can attend online. Do you feel it's more important to be there now during campaign season to learn what's going on in fiscal court, seeing the body language, the mannerisms, and you can see the behind the scenes stuff versus people that watch at home or candidates that don't watch anything at all and just come in kind of blind?
Yes, I've been attending since January. I've been to every physical court meeting. I've also been to some of the committee meetings, because yes, there's a big difference between being there, in the physical court meeting itself and watching it on TV. You don't get a feel for kind of, the people that are in there. There's, you don't get the same sense, or you don't get the same, you may miss something watching it on TV that you may catch being, in the meeting itself. And I've learned quite a bit since January, being in the meetings and things like that.
Russ, you mentioned the district that you're going to have, and that district includes, for those of you who are watching, it includes Arnold, Arnold Ridge, Forks, Green Hill, Ridgeview, Russell, Shinkle Lane, Scruggs, and Silver Lake. That's my old stomping grounds, as you know, as well. And that is a diverse area. I'll just be very blunt with it. You have high end middle income homes, and you have low income homes all through there. So you have to be able to talk broadly across those issues. Do you feel like you are able to relate to both sides of that spectrum of voters that you're going to have in that particular area?
Yes, I do. I think, working with the fire department and dealing with the public over the years, you learn, how to being a captain when you go to a fire scene or an EMS scene, you use your knowledge there to be able to communicate with whatever, whoever the person may be. And so over time you learn how to communicate, whether it's, just your neighbor, or if it's somebody you don't know, you have to learn how to quickly gain the sense of understanding that you have. And so that way, yes, but also in the fire service and over the years, you have a different learning technology. You have, the different generations that you've had to teach or you had to do, and you have to learn how you know, to guide those ones that have the technology that are able to pick their phone up and fact check you immediately, but you also be able to communicate with them, whether it be, by text message. They rather text message than they, or a phone call than they would talk face to face. And so it's learning those type things.
It's interesting that the area that we were just talking about is also an area that is experiencing a lot of development right now. There is a new grade school that is going on in that being built in that area right off Stedmantown Lane. The old Elkhorn Elementary is going to be moved over to that area. And then you also have two sidewalk projects that we had talked about in text earlier, me, you, and Craig. You have the project all the way from Ravencrest down. That's obviously a county project, and then the city actually has a grant that they were awarded about 3 years ago. At this point, I think it's closer to 4 years now, for sidewalks from Stedmantown Lane all the way to the Circle K down to that area. Because right now,
Ravencrest Apartments.
well, Ravencrest is on one side, but
Yes.
this project is going to be from the Circle K all the way up to that Stedmantown
Right,
Lane, and
yeah.
I think it's going to continue now based upon this. That for a lot of people who don't know, if you ever go up Shinkle Lane at 3:30 or 4 o'clock on a weekday afternoon, there are kids walking down Shinkle Lane, usually in people's backyards right now, but there is a huge sidewalk project that's going to be incorporated in there. Tell us a little bit about what your feelings are about that project and the importance of it for not only safety but also for food security for some of these folks.
Yeah, and I think too, you always have to, on Shinkle Lane, you always have to watch out for everybody and anybody, whether they're walking or riding a bike or whatever it may be. And, I think it's always been said that it's very hard to put a sidewalk on that part of the road, and I think even more, from, the Ravencrest Apartments up to, the Lakeview area, it's going to be very important because there are a lot of kids that, they run across the road. They're not crossing at a stoplight, or they're not, they much rather risk it and run across, which is not safe, and I think it's very important. But the other thing of it is making sure it's the right way to go, whether it comes up and crosses at Silver Lake 2 stoplight and then continues on up, or if it continues all the way up to Silver Lake and then crosses the road right there, which may be an easier because they looked at both areas of both ways. And, I know they've been to do the project. They've got it started and design wise, but I don't think they're funding necessarily to do the rest of it. Or it could be that they're waiting for the sewer project that's going to go out that way, and if it's on that side of the road.
You mentioned the sewer project, and there's a lot of projects going on around Franklin County that are outside of the 3rd District. Will you try to be up to speed on what's going on in the 5th, the 1st, the 2nd, just so you make an informed vote on all these things? And will you reach out to the people, the citizens in those areas, even though it's not your district, like say for the sewer project out there in Coolbrook area? Would you reach out to those folks?
Yeah, so I think yes, because I think one, you got to be able to talk to the magistrate that's in charge of that area to get some sort of a feel of what their people are talking about. But I also think you need to go drive. You need to go see what it actually is, so you understand. Just like, if they put a plan in front of you, you can't just vote yes or no on it. You've got to look at the project to see what it consists of and see how it affects the area in, so you understand how you can vote one way or the other. Because if you don't ever look at it or understand it, then you rely on other people that may be in their district to make that decision, and then it doesn't you're not being informed like you should in that instance.
What about the FACT district out on 127 towards Lawrenceburg, Franklin Anderson Commerce and Technology Park? Have you been following that since it started?
Yes.
What is your position on
I've watched
development and
stuff,
growth?
but I think, as long as it's good growth and not just something to say that we put something in an industrial park. I think if it's, it's going to be out there, and they're going to eventually, I think, over time down the road, several, maybe 10 years from now, but 127 is going to be developed on out towards Anderson County at some point, and that's what we're doing. To me, that's what we should be doing now, is putting stuff in place for 10, 15 years from now out that way, if that's the plan. And so, making sure what goes there is something that's going to sustain and be there and work for the people in that area, and not just stick something in there that falls apart and then you just got an empty area. I think that's, I have seen some of it. I have watched some of it, and I have to do some more research on it to understand it better.
One of that takes me to your website, and you talk in here that you want to welcome growth the right way with practical planning that protects what makes Franklin County special. To you, as somebody who you went to Franklin County just like I did, we have similar backgrounds in the sense that we're Frankfort folks. Same with Craig. What is it to you that makes Frankfort and Franklin County special? What makes Franklin County a great place to live and work?
I think it's the hometown feel, for one, and it's this, the stuff. It's not necessarily always downtown, but the stuff that goes on downtown. And I've been to Buffalo Trace, and I've done the tours, and that does pull people in, and and I think just the hometown feel for me. That's what I think Frankfort is. And it's also, going to the local football games or the baseball games, or, and getting that feel, your neighbor.
Yeah, absolutely. Another issue that I know is near and dear to your heart, as it was to mine, and still is public safety. First responders, not just police, but also EMTs and paramedics and firefighters, because that was your life for a long time. And I was the general counsel for the Board of EMS for a long time. So, I feel very close to that particular segment of our population. what do you feel needs to be done in Frankfort and in Franklin County to make our community or to keep our community safe at this time? For we have an aging population. We know that. But we also, yeah, I'm looking at you, Craig. But
Yeah.
as we get old, as we are expanding, we have Target now. We're going to have people coming off the interstate and things like that. What do we need to focus on for public safety from someone who's been in the first responder field?
So this is kind of my thought on this is in the public safety side of it, when they changed the retirement system, from the tier 1 to what they've got now, you don't have the loyalty for the job necessarily. So what happens is you have people come in, but they want to make more money, so you can just pick up and go to a different department. And so I think part of that is the change in the culture of that fire department, police department, things like that. And I think you see it more and more. We just, it's not out in the public how much turnover you have, whether it be, the police department. That's why they do lateral transfers. It's easier to get them in, get them trained, get them on the road. You don't have to send them to school. You don't have to do things like that. But I think overall, as long as the infrastructure is in place for those areas, whether it be the water and things like that, because as the buildings get bigger, you've got to be able to put them out if they catch on fire, and making sure that the fire departments have the equipment that they need, and then the police department or sheriff's department and things like that, you got to make sure that they have the equipment as well, and that they're doing what they need to do, whether they're replacing cars on a regular basis. And the fire department is the same way. You've got to have some sort of a plan in place to make sure that your equipment grows and stays in working order.
Well, following along that line, public safety is number one job of all government elected officials. You agree, right?
Yes.
Okay. The city has all their ambulances, and my dad utilized quite a few of these over the last few years. And at the beginning, when they would make a run out to my dad's house, I thought they were coming from the Evergreen Road Fire Station. I've since learned a whole lot. Ambulances come from the city, and our county firefighters are EMTs. We don't have any paramedics. Would you be willing to jump in and look at getting at least a couple ambulances out in the county fire department and getting some paramedics on these fire trucks or fire stations?
I think
it's not cheap. That won't be cheap.
It will not
it's
be.
not cheap. It's not cheap. And I think over time, I think, it would be easier to help fund an ambulance and to expand the service and the city still run it. I think that may be a couple more of a cost savings necessarily than, sending, because you've got to remember, you've got 2 years of paramedic school, you've got ride time, you've got continuing education,
It's a commitment.
Pay them. You got to
Yeah,
pay
them.
And
it's not cheap.
And it's not cheap. It's not cheap at all. But I think, there's ways to possibly work with, the city to figure out a plan, because right now the county, pays, towards the city's ambulance runs and things like that. And to your point is every county fire run, EMS run, you get a fire truck that's closest there, and then you get an ambulance to whatever's closest, and so the reason is they have to first respond. It's part of the policy, it's part of the agreement, and that's why they're all EMTs, and that then the ambulance comes from the city where the paramedics come from. And so they have to respond under KRS and things like that.
Would you be willing to look in to see if the county fire stations or county government could fund some paramedic training and get us, 2 or 3 paramedics in the county anyway?
I think, I think what you'll find is it'll be the cost savings wouldn't benefit necessarily. I think it's been looked at in the past of trying to get a paramedics into the county fire stations and running an ambulance service. And I think what they found out really quick is it's a lot of money. And
No doubt. But
it's going to be a hefty
and
cost to do that.
another expensive thing is technology, getting the internet out to all parts of the county. I know the county's working on it. Would you support them continuing working to get internet to every household in Franklin County?
Yes, I think that's very important because, during COVID, who would have thought we'd all be at home? And,
Right.
and if, some of it, how it is sometimes is the wind blows and the internet goes out, on some instance. But the thing about it is, you've got to be able to, that's a service that we need to make sure that we have available so that they can be able to, if they are at home or whatever. But I think it's a service that everybody should, have the opportunity to get if it's available and if it's something that we can do to get it done.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that, and I have a couple questions for you, but the one that just popped to mind is, for I don't know, 15 years we've been hearing about the state's initiative to have free or low cost internet for the entire state. That's just one of the numerous initiatives that the state has spent millions of dollars on that we haven't necessarily seen any output from. But my question is, because of those things like that, Franklin County has not always been the first recipient of state dollars, whether that's because of politics or whatever. But are you willing to commit that if you are elected, you will be up at the Capitol lobbying not just our local officials, but the ones who are making decisions about budgets to get that money that Franklin County needs?
And I think it's very important, especially because they're here and we're here. I think, that's where, connections are made. That's where, you have to be able to, lean on that and be able to express the importance, that being here is, something that they need to take care of and can help if possible. And that's something that, I would, if elected, I think that's something that would be important to do.
My next question that I want to jump in with is, you were obviously you were an athlete at Franklin County, as was I, and you have kids just like I do that are athletes at the local schools. One of the big things that the county has focused on, rightfully so, is the idea of becoming a hub for sports tourism. And in fact, at Lakeview Park, they are making a major overhaul that'll bring in several new ball fields that will be worthy of travel softball and baseball and things of that nature for the first time ever. And Franklin County can compete against some of those larger sports complexes like Elizabethtown and those. What is your opinion about sports tourism, and how does Franklin County continue to ride this sports tourism with any ideas or thoughts that you have on how to expand that beyond just softball and baseball?
I think to make sure that the partnership that's put in place that they're working on, I think they're getting ready to vote on who's going to run the
Right.
softball leagues and stuff
Yep.
like that. I think making sure I haven't been able to talk to anybody on that part of it yet. And so I think for me, moving forward, I think I need to kind of touch base with them, but I also think, we need to see what the partnership looks like moving forward and then see kind of how that works to, you know, to once it's in place on whether, how they're doing and what they're doing and how they market what they're doing to see if it's worth. And then from there, I think, if it's a good partnership, then it should be able to expand, whatever it may be, if we find a spot for soccer fields, and then, you can transition that right over to having, soccer tournaments and, archery tournaments if they have a place to do those. Or you can, there's all kinds of different avenues I think that you probably could use that once they're in place.
Well, and Craig and I were talking about this last week about the new pool complex has indoor basketball courts, which that's exactly what you need for archery. And I don't think people realize how big archery is across the state of Kentucky and across the South and across the United States. It is huge. I mean, we have a tremendous archery program at Franklin County and Western Hills, and we have a great bowling program. A lot of people don't know that as well. I mean, a very competitive bowling program. So I think there's all sorts of opportunities for folks to get their kids involved in sports that aren't your footballs and your basketballs and your baseballs, but to get these kids active. And the county's on the right road. Will you commit that you want to make sure that continues to grow as well?
Right. Yes. Today, matter of fact, this morning I was over at the ribbon cutting for the auxiliary gym. And, you're right. There are so many sports that you don't think of: bowling, bass fishing, the e-game. There are many new game and sports out there that doesn't include just the normal sports that you normally see. And so I think it's very important. That way you get everybody in the school has an opportunity to get involved in a sport of any type that they feel that they want to do.
Okay, one last question. I know about the water district out here where I live, out in the 5th district. Does everybody in your district? Do you know if everybody is? I don't know if y'all are serviced by Elkhorn Water District. Do you know if everybody's got good water out in your district?
So as you go out Georgetown Road where the sewer project's going out 420 or out 420, down to the Forks, that is serviced by the Forks Water District. And what they're doing is they're at the trailer park, they're putting in new water lines with the project that's going on down there. And that way they have service at all the lots that are in that area. And then they're also, adding some fire hydrants, which will be beneficial because it'll lower the ISO rating, for some of those people in that area. And, and I think that's something that, we should kind of look into if it's a possibility to some of these water districts to add working fire hydrants that the fire department can use, so they can, lower some tax rates and things like that, but they, have ability to do that. But as far as I know that, where I'm in Indian Hills and some of Silver Lake and things like that, they're serviced by, the plant board and things like that. And then as you go on out, then I think it's the Forks. And then once you get all the way out there, it's Elkhorn Water District out there at Elkhorn Terrace.
Russ, I want to thank you for joining us. We've learned a lot about what you want to accomplish and why you're doing this. I know that you are unopposed in the primary, and you'll be facing current Magistrate Kelly Dicus in the fall. November the 3rd is the date for that. I'm going to give you the last word here. Help you tell folks where they can find out more about you and help out. I know you have a website and things. If you want to tell people about that now.
Yes, I want to thank you all for having me on. My website is greenwellformagistrate.com. You can get on there and kind of see. I've got some stuff on there. I'll be adding some more. Also, you can text me or call me, anytime, 502-803-1031. If I don't answer, I will answer you in a short time, manner. And then you can email me at Greenwell Magistrate 3, I think it's what it is, Gmail.
Okay. Well, we put you on the spot there, but we appreciate you coming along, and we will be keeping up with your campaign. Obviously, for the next 6 months, we're going to keep tabs on everything here, and we wish you a lot of luck, and hope you get some rest in between now and and election day. I know I didn't get much, so enjoy the little bit you do get.
Right. And thank you all very much.
All right, we'll talk to you, Russ. Thanks again for joining us.
All right.
We will talk to you guys soon.
All right. Thank
Well, that was Russ Greenwell. We want to thank Russ for being here with us. He great guy. Grew up in Franklin County like we did, and it's always good to let the voters know who is going to be on the ballot and who those people are as individuals, but also as candidates as well. And there are a lot of there's going to be a lot of really contested matters in Franklin County. I'm just thinking about all of the ones that at least half of the magistrates are up for re-election are actually facing competition. Next week we are going to have the Democrat primary candidates for sheriff here next Thursday night for an online debate, first of its kind here in Franklin County, to be able to allow those folks to get to know you. Craig, your thoughts on a crowded field as we are dealing with a lot of these folks?
Yeah, the 3rd district's got 2 candidates. The 5th district's got 2, but the 6th district, I believe, has 6.
Well, they have 4 in the Democrat. Yeah, 4 in the Democrat.
2 on the Republican side.
Well, so I think is Jacob Hack the only one on the Republican side?
Yeah,
they have 2 and one dropped out.
One dropped out. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, one of them dropped out.
So whoever makes it out of that 4 way field will end up jumping in with those other guys. Yeah. So I mean,
it's the 6th district's the most conservative district in Franklin County. 3rd district touches the city and the county. So it's going to be interesting to watch these candidates and how they interact with the public, how they communicate with the public.
Yeah.
And, most important thing of all is the door knocking.
Yeah. I mean, I think people don't realize, especially with an aging community like we do, and we do. I think when you and I were looking at the census numbers, that more than 50% of the folks in Franklin County are over the age of 45, and that's that's a very high number, especially in
we're an old county.
We are. We're established. We like to say, Craig, not old. But I think a lot of people don't realize that with that demographic, you can't always campaign the way that new advancing areas, like this is not Simi Valley, California, where you can use new ways of campaigning. You have to kind of do it the old school way. You got to knock on doors.
Right.
You got to put ads in the newspaper, things that a lot of people, wouldn't normally do. Billboards are big. And I think that knocking on doors and being at all of the summer events and shaking hands and kissing babies, it's just the reality that you're going to have with this type of election. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah. And what we're doing, podcast, that's new this election cycle. All the candidates will be appearing on podcast everywhere.
Yep.
National or local. They're going to, I think that's what won the presidential race, was the podcast that Trump's son convinced him to, like, go on Joe Rogan.
Got to go on Joe Rogan. You got to.
Big podcast. Yeah. So hopefully we'll be offering that same opportunity to the local candidates. If they want to come on, just reach out to either me or Kyle.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you don't have a phone number, we're on Facebook. We can be found.
To that point, you actually had somebody reach out to you. We won't say who, but they reached out on Facebook and basically said, "Are you going to have every candidate on?" We'll have anybody on that wants to be on. We do not care. If you want to come on and talk politics, local politics, if you just want to come on and talk, we'll be happy to have you on. But you'll need to reach out to us, and we're going to do the exact same. So, we've always done our best to make it very clear that, the purpose of the podcast is to provide you with facts. And that's exactly what we're going to try to do with this. And folks, this is exactly, if you don't like the way things are happening in this world or this country, everything starts at the local level. Every single thing you deal with starts at the local level. So if you have interests in things that you want to see things get done, then go out and meet these candidates, get to know them, and get to know their backstories. So we appreciate Russ for coming
And
on.
don't be afraid to reach out to them. That a
Oh,
lot of people say, you know, well, they won't respond. Well, if they don't respond, remember it when it's election time.
yeah, that's if they say I want you to reach out to me, do it. They all want to be contacted, and find out about these folks. Don't just feel like you have to vote for somebody because they're already in office, and maybe
Right.
they're the best candidate. You know, maybe they really are. But get to know these folks and what they are offering.
Become an informed voter.
That's right.
That's
I
the
mean,
number one thing.
if anything, whether you vote for Republicans, Democrats, or in city races that are nonpartisan, you know, just get to know the issues at hand. And our goal over the next, you know, few weeks is going to be to present those issues to you, and over the next 6 months, present all of the major issues to you so that you can make informed decisions. I will say that we'll use this as a weekday wrap up, if you will, weekend wrap up. There's been a lot that's happened this week, Craig. Tons.
Yeah. But, you know, the humorous thing that I saw today, which is just so typical politician, I believe you have the graphics and stuff.
Yeah.
Gavin Newsom put his memoir out. It didn't sell. So his campaign pack bought 67,000 copies so it would get on the New York Times bestseller and Amazon bestseller. And if you make $1 donation, a $5 donation, they'll mail you a copy of his book. So, you know, they spent $1.5 million on those books just to get it on the New York Times bestseller list, so they can spin it.
Yeah, I mean,
best-selling author, you know,
New York Times best-selling artist or author. Look, the New York Times bestseller list is not what it was even 10 years ago. You know,
right.
if
Doesn't
you
take any copies to get on there.
No, 20,000 units gets you on the top 20, right? Or the top 10. I mean, that's a ton of books, actual physical books. And nobody's reading it on e-reader. Heck, half the people can't read. But this is this is embarrassing. You have
completely on a state of 48 million people, whatever California's got. I mean, and he sold 30,000 books, and he's the darn governor, multi-term governor.
97,400 books is what the New York Times bestseller said that he sold, and 67,000 of that he bought. I mean,
right.
Can you? By the way, with donation money through his own PAC and his own campaign, but also through, you know, Act Blue and those groups. I mean, they're the ones who are giving $1.5 million to do this.
He OPM'd his own books, other people's money, because other people wouldn't buy his book. And, you know, our governor, it's going to be interesting. Our governor's got a book coming out in September.
When's his coming out? September 22nd?
September 22. Yeah. I think it's coming out then. So it'll be interesting to watch the numbers on those, because that's local with us. And all the presidential candidates always throw a book out. But when I saw this come across with Newsom, he bought 2/3 of the books that were sold. I mean, that ain't looking good for him.
No, and this is becoming, the worst part about this is so Hollywood, right? I mean, and the same with Governor Beshear. I mean, look, I know it's part of the game. I know everybody has to do it. Everybody has to have a book out. It's self-aggrandizing and all that. I get it, but this is not what the American people want. It just simply isn't. You know, we want people to be genuine. We want people to tell us how you're going to fix our problems. We don't want to read your garbage book about what you did to save seals. No, to save the seals during the brush fires in California. I mean, this is a joke. And what was it that you said that Governor Beshear's, the title of his book
I'd have to go look it up again.
But again, I mean, I know that this is how the game. I know this is how the game is played. We get it. We understand. But it's so predictable. In fact, about 2 months ago, Craig, when this was announced about Governor Beshear, you actually, he said the night before, big announcement coming.
Yeah.
And you posted. You said, "Is this his announcement for president, or is it the announcement of his book before he runs for president?" And you
Right.
nailed it. You absolutely. I'm going to be writing a book. First he started a podcast, which was hilarious in its own right.
Yeah.
They should. I guess it's part of the politician starter kit now. Like you get like a template for your book, and you also get podcast equipment. I don't know if that's what all everybody's doing. And I get that Governor Beshear is trying to be the moderate of the group, but this, especially with Newsom, who is very Hollywood and the good looks and everything else, I
And
don't.
the perfect hair. I've got the book
Perfect.
title.
What
Governor
is what is
It's
it again?
Go and Do Likewise, How We Heal a Broken Country. Due out September 22 of this year. You can pre-order it now.
Oh, you can pre-order it. Good. Can he pre-order it himself? I mean, I think that's the real question.
Yeah, what it says, the title comes from the Bible's parable of the Good Samaritan.
Oh, it absolutely does.
Yeah, the book focuses on how Beshear's Christian faith, centered on compassion and kindness, look back at his fireside chats during coronavirus,
We
can
get through
heal
this together.
national division while critiquing the misuse of religion in politics.
The irony that's the tagline, the misuse of religion in politics, when all that is the misuse of religion in politics.
And that's coming
Whatever.
from AI. That's an AI summary, not mine.
Well, that's great.
But this was just hilarious on 18 different fronts, where he's not selling his book, he's buying it to get on the bestseller list, and now his campaign will say, always introduce him as New York Times bestseller, Gavin Newsom.
Well, everything about this guy's fake. So I mean, everything has been for years, and so this fits.
I wonder if his campaign manager's worried or married.
I don't think there's any way that they thought even 2 months ago that anybody had a shot at beating him, especially Governor Beshear and folks like that. But now, I don't think there's any way in the world. And how many times have we seen this? I think back all the way to Gary Hart, in the '88 election for the Democrats. I mean, this happens every cycle. Even in the Republicans in 2016, it was Jeb Bush, right?
Yep.
For 4 years, all we heard about was that Jeb Bush was going to be the next president of the United States. And then, you threw a Ted Cruz in, or you throw a Rand Paul in, you throw all these other people in, and everybody laughed at the fact that it was Trump.
What about Howard Dean? Remember him?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
his campaign
one scream
got destroyed off of an excited utterance.
Yeah, it's all it was.
Good up until that, and then the media, because he wasn't their chosen one.
Nope.
Like Newsom, they just murdered. They just excoriated him.
Yeah, they did. And the problem is that I think that campaigns, especially presidential campaigns, are so long now. You're 3 years of campaigning. Let's just be honest. I mean, as soon as the one guy's elected, the next guy that you're already talking, well, who's running against him? Gavin Newsom has been the heir apparent for 3 years, and the longer that gets, the harder it is to keep that mojo going. And there's absolutely no way in this day and age, if you're the front runner, that you're gonna withstand the barbs and arrows that are coming at you for as long as they are. And I think with self-induced, problems such as this, in addition to that, there's just no way you can survive that long. I mean, you agree?
Well, right, because there's nothing that's not going to get out. I ran across this on X because the mainstream media doesn't report anything like this anymore, but the people across America see this, and the first place to go for news is on X. If you want to see something up front, there's been several alerts come across my phone while we're doing this.
Yeah.
And Tusi TV said there's our GC coup going on in Iran right now, but that's just a headline. That might be just to get viewers, but there's nothing these candidates can hide anymore, so they better be as genuine as can be.
I think the interesting thing is that as more disingenuous behavior of politicians gets pointed out, they're not changing their behavior. They simply aren't changing their behavior. And the hilarious thing about it is the only reason that Trump won in 2016 and even won in 2024, I believe, is because he was so anti-establishment. And you can hate him for, you could say he's arrogant, or that he loves himself too much, or that he, whatever. You can throw all that in there. He's not your typical politician. He doesn't play by the rules. He doesn't say all the things that you expect him to say. He didn't write a book before he became president. He wrote a book decades before, The Art of the Deal. So he doesn't just play by those rules that you expect him to. And people love that. I mean, there were tons of moderates and not just right-wing conservatives, but also independents who voted for this guy because they were like, finally.
Democrats,
and
minorities.
They
dominated all of it.
They finally said somebody that'll just say what's on his mind.
Yeah.
If people followed that a little bit more, politics would be a lot more entertaining. I'll tell you that much. But also, it wouldn't be so fake.
Well,
because
if I'd say what I said before previously, that Governor Beshear could still be the Democrat nominee if he stays middle of the road, and if he quits attacking Trump and attacks his future opponents. If he's going to attack somebody, make it J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio or somebody like that. But going after the guy today, and I know it's probably to secure his the left wing base of the Democrat Party, but I think overall, if he wants to get the independent and the liberal Republicans, if he just be the middle of the road, if he would be the coronavirus or COVID Andy, the FDR Andy, where he had those things, because that was must-see TV. If he would just ride through that.
5 years ago, 6 years ago.
The other side, others will just burn themselves out.
6 years ago, when all that was going on, I remember saying to Jen, I don't know why anybody would run against this guy. I don't care if I agree with his policies or not. Every stay-at-home mom and wife, they loved the older generations. They loved the fireside chats. Just the aw shucks kind of guy.
I didn't miss them. I watched them every day.
It didn't like a thing about the policies, but we all watched, right? And we all. We all worried about Kenneth, whether Kenneth was going to come back and be able to get the right graphics up and everything. I mean, it was must-see TV in Kentucky. So why run against a guy like that? I mean, you have to put somebody up against it. But I knew 6 years ago this guy was going to run for president. Because that's the only because of that. And he knew that he had a path at that point. But Gavin Newsom, he's not the guy. He's not going to be the nominee. I don't believe that.
Hope not. We better hope he's not the.
I don't believe he will be. But I'll tell you once again, I said this before, and I'll say it again. The center of the U.S. politics universe is going to be in Central Kentucky. It absolutely is. Our governor is going to be, one of the top guys. As long as he doesn't mess up with regard to president. The
Massey.
Thomas Massey. Right now, we're dealing with those issues in Northern Kentucky. I'm telling you, and that election as a bellwether in Northern Kentucky will really tell us how a lot of things are potentially going to go.
Came out yesterday that the Boone County Republicans are not endorsing Thomas Massey.
That's the center, and
it made national news.
That's the heart of his of where his campaign is always focused, is in Boone County.
Right.
And then you've got the chair of the House Oversight Committee, who is probably, even though he hasn't announced that he's running yet, is probably the leading candidate for governor of Kentucky in Representative Jamie Comer.
Where's he live?
He lives about 1,000 yards behind me. So it's like,
he's a Frankfort resident.
He's a Frankfort resident, and what I think people don't realize is that there are so many things happening in the United States that are going to be focused on what happens and the people involved in Frankfort, Kentucky, in the South.
J.D. Vance.
So you're talking.
That's the number one Republican presidential candidate. Our
can you
governor
imagine?
Is now where he was not even on the radar for the polls. Last poll I saw a week ago, he's at 4%. And remember, that's not bad because Bill Clinton came in at 1%.
1%. Right.
First time, and he ended up being a two-term president. So do not think Andy Beshear cannot win the Democrat primary.
No, and Kentucky will be the battleground because J.D. Vance has a strong connection. J.D. Vance is going to be the nominee for the Republicans unless something crazy happens.
Mhm.
Marco Rubio is probably going to be your vice presidential candidate. I can almost guarantee that. But then you have two guys who call Kentucky home. And J.D. Vance did live in Kentucky for a while, and he considers Appalachia part of his home. You're going to have guys fighting in Kentucky as a battlefield state. So for you folks in Kentucky, get ready because we're going to be on. It's going to be on every single station, and we're here for it. Craig and I will be here for all of it. So I look forward to that. Craig, we have had some crazy news at the University of Kentucky with regard to basketball over the last couple days. There's no other way to put it.
Right.
We got the information. We got some information as we wrapped up the show on Wednesday. Thursday we weren't live, but we did have a show, so we didn't break in. But immediately after you and I both ripped the university for whiffing on Robert Wright III,
Yeah.
Zoom Diallo actually
Zoom. That's
Zoom.
what you'll be hearing in Rupp.
Yeah. Well, so Zoom Diallo is now going to be the new point guard at the University of Kentucky, and where I think people were frustrated, and I think we still have some issues, is that Robert Wright didn't transfer. He didn't go someplace else either. He just went back home to BYU.
Right.
He was considered to be a lock. I said it on here, and I wasn't kidding.
You weren't the only one. Jeff Goodman and many other national guys said he was a lock.
Jeff Goodman's actual words were, the only way he's not going to Kentucky is if they screw this up. And apparently they did. Robert Wright was arguably the number one point guard in the portal, but he's going back to BYU. It's over. Got to move on. Zoom Diallo committed to Kentucky late Wednesday. He is the former Washington guard. He averaged 15.7 points per game, 4.5 assists, leading them last season. Commitment basically came within hours of Wright not committing. But let me tell you the dynamics here, and this is basically how not only I'm looking at it, but also the on three guys and the field of 68. Essentially, what happens is if you have two sets of players, right? You have a set of players that if Robert Wright's coming here, these are the guys that you want to go after. And then you have a set of players that if Zoom Diallo's coming, you have another set of players that feel like they can play with Zoom Diallo.
Play AAU together.
Including Tyron Stokes, who is still out there, be that as it may. But then you have a couple of guys like a Donnie Freeman who they're going to go after no matter, and they feel like they can make that happen.
Did you see the Freeman update right before we came on air that he's down to Kentucky and Alabama?
Yes,
and
he canceled his visit to UConn. He is going to visit Alabama, which
said he should make his decision in the next 48 hours. That's what the prognosticators are saying.
Which leads us to the next big issue, which is who else is out there, and I think the one that they're really going after right now is Wilkins. I think they feel like Freeman and Wilkins, if they can lock down those two guys, then that's a big get. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I think they've got a good shot at getting him, but the one I think we screwed up on, I'll say again, is I think it's Jacob Feldhaus. I think that's his first name.
Yep,
Darren Feldhaus' son, taking 21 points, 13 rebounds at the University of South Florida. If we cannot fill the team out, because I read today the portal closes in 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
And then we're going to have to depend on transfers. And why didn't we go after Kentucky's Mr. Basketball, our Gatorade Player of the Year for Kentucky? 6'7", 6'8", 21 points, 13 rebounds. We didn't even recruit him.
Well,
that's what I don't understand.
No, I totally agree. And we talked about that. It's a total joke that didn't happen. But again, right now, as we stand here, right now, we have one guard. And
we probably only got about 5 players.
Yeah. So I mean, so we need Alex Wilkins. Alex Wilkins is a 6'5" guard from Furman, who
Solid too.
who is also a scorer. He averaged 17.8 points on 46% shooting from the field and 32.8 from 3-point line in 35 games. He averaged almost 30 minutes a game, which is just fantastic, and he dished out 4.7. Now, are either one of these a shooting guard? I don't know if I would say that. They can fill it up, like Cadeau did at the University of Michigan this year. But I don't know that I would necessarily call either one of them a traditional shooting guard. So you go after, you get Wilkins, maybe you get Freeman as well. You lock those two down. I will tell you that it looks like those guys are trending towards Kentucky. I can't say whether that's good or not.
Mm-hmm.
Then
a lot of them have been trended towards UK.
Yeah. How do we keep getting trended towards, and then they get here and people walk away, and you're like, what in the world's going on?
Who was the player we lost to DePaul? I mean, to DePaul?
Magoon Guath.
Yeah, how do you lose a player to DePaul?
I don't know. It's like I said last night. These guys are choosing lower tier programs than the University of Kentucky. They're not choosing the University of Michigan or the University of North Carolina or Duke, which is what we experienced over the last 40 years. These guys are going to Butler and DePaul, and I'm going to go back to BYU. What are you talking about? You're going to go back to BYU?
Somebody at UK getting a sports degree, like your daughter's got a sports degree, I think.
Yep.
They need to do their PhD dissertation on why are these players going to DePaul and all these other smaller, less top of the line schools.
Well, it's the psychology of it too, because you're going, what is said and done that doesn't make a 21-year-old kid want to live in the and enjoy Central Kentucky? I mean, I think back to when guys like Jamal Mashburn came to Kentucky from New York, and Ron Mercer from Nashville. They come in and they're like, "This is heaven! Like this is the greatest place in the world to live. I want to play basketball here too." Just as on top of that, what is happening when they get into the basketball offices? Because this isn't just about losing Robert Wright. This is the number of guys who have said, "Nah, I'm gonna pass." Now, I will say that there was some blowback today. Terrence Brown from Utah, who has been trending towards Kentucky as well, which is also a good thing. He canceled his visit, and a lot of folks thought that was because he was getting ready to commit elsewhere. It's not true. We found out today his aunt passed away, and he's coming later. He's still leaning towards Kentucky, still wants to come to Kentucky, and I think there's your shooting guard along with Wilkins.
And our stupid fans.
Oh my gosh! Listen, you guys.
They burned him without knowing what's going on, and now to find out a family member passed away.
Yeah,
I hope they feel terrible.
I think the problem with these fans is that while you're in your mom's basement and you're upset and you're watching your highlights of the 2012 national championship game on repeat over and over again, as you haven't left the downstairs for only going to get your Mountain Dew refills, is that you're talking about kids who have real life going on right now, right?
Yeah.
They have parents and aunts and uncles and grandparents who are dying or who have job problems or in a lot of
anything. We all have happened to us every day.
Yeah, and for a lot of these families, this kid that we're dealing with right now is the one chance for this family to have generational wealth. It's it, and there is a ton of pressure on these kids. More than you can ever imagine. And you can say they're divas, and you can say that they don't deserve all the money and all this other stuff. But if your kid was 6'9" and could shoot a 3-pointer at a 48% clip and dunk the ball over anybody and get 10 rebounds a game, your butt would be making sure that your kid would be getting every dime that he could possibly get. It is a joke, Craig, from these fans who say, these kids don't care about that. We need to move on from them. They're just asking for way too much money. Yeah, you would be asking for that money too. And don't tell me that you wouldn't either. Don't tell me that.
You tell your kid to go to his job and say,
absolutely.
Hey, buddy, tell your boss that you want less money for working.
No. And yeah, they want to play at the best programs in the world. But you know what? If UCLA is willing to pay me, $4 million to be on the beach in LA, sign me up, right?
Yeah.
And then I don't have the pressure of going to the University of Kentucky where maybe I'm making $5 million, but the fans are on my butt constantly about the fact that, I missed a layup earlier in the game in my third game and one of the hardest gyms to shoot from. It's a joke, guys. It is a total joke. I am not in any way questioning whether you are a fan of the University of Kentucky. A lot of you are. What I'm questioning is your loyalty to the program. Because at this point, everything you're doing, like with Terrence Brown and his family, makes us look like a bunch of jerks. And if we are a bunch of jerks, nobody wants to come to the University of Kentucky. They never will. And all you're doing is you're hurting a generation of fans that just want to cheer for good basketball and good players and all these things. And because Joe Schmo doesn't want to come to your program because you all were jerks.
Still wish them luck. They could want to come next year.
Absolutely. Everybody's on a 1-year contract now. Right. Like, what are you doing? And maybe it is coaching. Maybe we switch up coaches. Maybe you get a Dusty May come in next year. I don't think that's going to happen. And I'm not saying that that's what we should be looking for. But if you burn everybody in a 4-year swath of kids, you're not going to have anybody come in at all. And that's the thing that I don't think people see is that it's not the blue checkmark guys that say things that get the programs in trouble. It's the guy that's sitting in his mom's basement, watching the 1996 team over and over again, who lives for nothing else. Those are the guys that are crushing us. And I wish they would just go outside, touch grass, and not take it as seriously as they do.
Well, on a more positive note, I was interacting with a Wildcat podcast last night, and the guy is in Saudi Arabia. He's a big UK. He lives in Tennessee. He's from Kentucky. Lives in Tennessee, but he's in Saudi Arabia working 9 months a year. And you'd never in a million years think the dad of one of UK's players would call in and then stay on for about an hour and take every question anybody asked him. But Cam Williams' dad, this guy is just he could light up a football stadium with the energy that he was showing last night. Yeah. I mean, he was talking about Coach Pope. He was talking about the AD, talking about all the players. Just any kind of information you wanted, this guy had it. And fortunately, I struck up a thing with him, and we were texting after the show around midnight. Now, he's in Louisiana, where Cam Williams is from. Yep. But down the road, if our viewership can get built up, I believe we can get Greg Williams Sr. on our podcast, and I'm telling you, this guy is just bubbling with energy.
Yeah, I'm actually looking really forward to energy. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And in fact, he's a big pizza guy too, if I remember correctly. So he's gonna be tearing up some Da Vinci's.
Supposedly, we've got a roundabout date for him coming in, and then I won't announce it, of course, unless he says. And I believe that he will be bringing Cam with him because he said Cam loves good pizza too.
This section is brought to you by Da Vinci's Pizza, as you can see from the logo at the top. Get your hot and ready.
How cool would it be? And I told him, I said, Mitch Barnhart lives in Franklin County. He said, well, I'll bring him too. So we can.
I'll tell you what we'll do. We will, if we can get the fans to commit to watching us and reposting and subscribing to this, we will have the podcast at Da Vinci's Pizza. And we'll have Greg Williams Sr. on with us there, and we'll talk UK sports.
Well, but a lot of people don't know Mitch Barnhart lives in Franklin County.
He does.
Yeah, and he eats at our restaurant. I've not met him at the restaurant, but my staff tells me that he goes drive-through pretty regular, And so Cam Williams' dad, Greg Williams Sr., said, well, I'll bring him with you so we could have the athletic director, a 6'8" starter, and that, by the way, went 21 for 22 in free throws last year, 95.4%.
I didn't even know that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that would be a big day at Da Vinci's Pizza.
It will, and if we can get you guys to make sure that you like and subscribe the podcast and start to spread this, it'll be worth it to everybody, and we'll make a big event of it, Craig. Well, I'll make sure that we have all of the technology set up and everything ready to go. All right, well, let's get you caught up real quick before we get going on local action in the local softball. Franklin County dropped a tough one Thursday night following a great crossing 10-7 in a game that was a lot closer than the final score suggests. The Flyers actually struck first. Rosie Landers knocked in a run in the opening inning, but Great Crossing answered immediately with a 4-run bottom half, capitalizing on a walk and an error and 2-run triple to swing the momentum. Franklin County kept fighting. Emma Olds delivered the biggest swing of the night, a 2-run homer to center in the 5th to pull the Flyers back into it, but they just couldn't fully close the gap. At the plate, Franklin County was productive. Rosie Landers led the way, going 3 for 4. Good job, Rosie Landers.
Yeah. Did she pitch also?
Looks like she was. It doesn't say here whether Rosie pitched or not, but she's a heck of a pitcher. Daughter of our friend Nick. Rosie Landers led the way, going 3 for 4. Lily Pollard and Caitlin Kennedy added multiple hits, and the Flyers racked up 11 hits total. But defensively, that first inning and a few key mistakes proved costly. Franklin County now turns the page and heads to North Laurel this weekend. On the baseball side, Franklin County edged Frankfort 3-2. This is on Wednesday night, and a tight one at Capitol View Park. That's going to be a good one in the districts. And at Great Crossing, rolled past Western Hills 17-1. So a mixed bag locally, but some competitive ball, especially in that county matchup.
Baseball score 17-1.
17-2. Yeah, it's baseball.
Golly.
Yeah. So. Well, I will, once again, we want to thank Russ Greenwell for joining us. We appreciate each and every one of you joining us every weekday. We are here at 5 p.m. every single day. As always, I am Kyle Thompson. I'm always joined with my good friend Craig Blanton, and we will catch you guys next week on Monday, 5 p.m. But before we go, a reminder, next Thursday, we are going to have the Democrat candidates for sheriff here in Franklin County. Make sure you join that, and we will have live chats where we can add questions that people are going to be watching, and it's going to be a first of its kind for us and for you guys as well, an interactive broadcast debate that we will offer anybody that wants to ask particular questions. Craig, you got anything before I get going?
Well, if you nothing on that side, we will be pushing this, so you'll see it a lot on social media. I'm getting into TikTok now, finally, after all these years.
Well, because China sold their interest, right?
That's exactly right. Oracle bought it. So, yeah, that's exactly right. But yeah, no, I don't got anything else. I'm going to go watch my granddaughter play soccer here at 6:30. So.
All right. Well, we appreciate you guys joining us. We will see you all Monday when we will have more guests. All next week will be filled with guests. Next Friday, by the way, Jeff Waldridge is going to join us, and we're going to talk all sorts of stuff with the Sons of.
It'll be fun.
With the Sons of Appalachia, some missing UFO doctors as well. He wants to talk about that and always talk about Bigfoot. So we're looking forward to that as well. So if this means anything to you guys, if you're interested in anything we're doing, make sure you like and subscribe. Check us out every single day at 5 p.m. with me and Craig. We will see you guys next week. Thanks for joining us, everybody.